YouTube. Today we're gonna be watching another video today, and of course, it's about to be about hold on, my bad about that. My bad. It is actually going to be. Hold on. This one right here, Clive Thomas. If y'all haven't already before, please subscribe to Clive Thomas. This dude drops amazing information. This dude has tons of knowledge, and I think silver and gold are the trending topics right now. Silver plus 7%. Silver's trading at like 115 now. So we're gonna be looking at paper prices versus reality. What should you trade, silver or miners? Let's see what Clive Thompson has to say about it.
Hello, dear friends. My name is Clive Thompson. Today is Saturday, 24th of January. Last night, on Friday evening, something extraordinary happened in the silver market. Something I have never seen before. The silver price crashed. But this was not a downwards crash. This was an upwards crash. Upwards crashes are very unusual. On Friday, silver closed up 7.34% on the day. We're going to take a look at that on the chart now. So here you see at the bottom the silver price climbing since the start of the day. So where my mouse is now, that's here we are. That's yesterday at $96, $95, $96, and you see it climbing throughout the day where my mouse is going, all the way up to $103. The higher line up here, the black line, that's the Shanghai price, and we're going to talk about that. So in Shanghai, you can see the price closed at $114.47. Now, at the time the Shanghai price closed, the COMEX price was around $101 on this red line going down here. But after Shanghai had closed, the silver price continued to climb, as you see here. The light blue line is the near-dated futures line, and the dark blue line is the spot price. So it's trading in a normal contango, at least for the near-dated future. So you can see $101 all the way up to $103, even after markets were closing. So $103 for me is about $6 higher than the closing price here of, where were we? About $96. There we are. $96. So what's that? That's a rise of about $6 on the day. In fact, if I click here, we'll see exactly what it was. Yep. So silver was up. Actually, it was up $7.10 or 7.39%. And it wasn't just silver rising. Gold also rose. I'm seeing that gold in dollars, we went from, we were up $52.21 to $4,988.17, just $12 high of that $5,000 mark. I'll just click on it and see if it touched the $5,000 mark. No, it didn't quite get there as far as I can see. And we'll go back to the silver price here. So, as I said, the black line at the top is the Shanghai price, trading at a significant premium. Now, this premium at the moment is around $11. At one point, it was $13 at the time of the close. This premium is a record premium. What it means is that silver is not being flown from New York to Shanghai to meet the difference. It would be a pretty obvious thing for a bullion bank to load a bunch of silver onto a plane, it would arrive in Shanghai the next day, and they could arbitrage away the difference, collecting a nice $11 premium over the price they just paid for it in New York. But that's not happening. Why is it not happening? Well, it implies that whoever would normally do this, the bullion banks, somehow they're not getting the silver, or they're not getting the right type of silver, or they're not getting it in the right place, but something is broken, because we've now got effectively two prices. We've got the New York price and we've got the Shanghai price. But wait a minute, we've got more than two prices. You go and try and buy silver from a coin dealer and see what price you get. Now, I can tell you that in America, some coin dealers are saying that they are offering silver well below the spot price, whilst others are charging well above the spot price if you're buying. And likewise, if you're selling, you might find you're getting as much as $20 below spot, because there's a lot of silver coming into the bullion dealers. They're backed up and they're having trouble passing it on to the refiners, who are also overloaded with silver coming in the door. So many of the refiners are now saying, we won't take anything other than 99.9% silver, because it takes time and money and chemicals to for anything less than 100% pure to refine it into pure silver. So the dealers, the coin dealers, are getting all this silver coming in the door. Not all of them, some of them. They're getting all this silver coming in the door, and they can't offload it to the refiners. So what are they doing? They're lowering their prices, some of them, significantly, hoping that you and I will go in and say, oh, I can buy silver here below the spot price. Well, if you see it below the spot price, take advantage of it now while you still can, but be careful. Some dealers are overwhelmed with buyers and they are charging well above the spot price. So if you're thinking of buying silver, certainly ring round and find out what prices you can get. But my advice is to do nothing. In a market like this, the spreads between bid and ask prices are very, very wide, and I wouldn't be buying or selling, at least not if you're dealing in physical coins or physical bars. Now, if you're dealing in exchange-traded funds or trading on COMEX, of course, the spreads are going to be very, very narrow. There you can feel absolutely free to do it.
Using this ugly software, our client Fabian became a full-time prop firm trader by creating his...
Now, what's been going on in the world of silver? Well, first of all, we've had the declaration that silver is now a strategic metal in the United States. That means that it's now able to be purchased by the military, by government agencies, and stored for various strategic needs. We've also had the situation in China.
I don't know how I feel about that, because I feel like once the government starts to get control of a currency, then I feel like that's when prices start to get manipulated overall. I think we've seen it with Bitcoin. When the government started to have like a Bitcoin reserve, I felt like Bitcoin was so much more volatile and manipulated. But that's just...
where they've announced that permission will be needed to export silver from China. Now, historically, China has been exporting silver, but now only some of the biggest players can apply for permission to export silver, and that permission may or may not be given, depending on perhaps who the buyer is. I imagine that they won't be giving permission if the buyer is the US military, for example. All of that means that there's probably less silver coming into the market from those sources. Meanwhile, we've got the situation since many, many years ago, about 5 years ago, when the mined supply of silver dipped below the industrial use. So
I wish I would have just been in silver like a year ago. Like a year ago, silver was trading at like $40, bro.
Supply of silver has been going down for a decade, and the industrial use has been rising non-stop for years and years, because silver is used in the photovoltaic industry, in the motor car industry, in the defense industry, and of course, most importantly of all, in the electronics industry. So as electronics gets smaller and there's more electronic devices, the need to have corrosion-free connections and things which will conduct electricity perfectly goes up. So demand for silver in the electronics industry is rising.
Wait. He just gave out some sauce right there.
So as electronics gets industry in the non-stop for years, going down for a decade, and the industrial use has been rising non-stop for years and years, because silver is used in the photovoltaic industry, in the motor car industry, in the defense industry, and of course, most importantly of all, in the electronics industry. So as electronics gets smaller and...
So basically what he's saying is silver is going to keep pumping. That's all I heard.
There's more electronic devices, the need to have corrosion-free connections and things which will conduct electricity perfectly goes up. So demand for silver in the electronics industry is rising steadily. Supply of silver out of the mines is falling. So as this started to happen, the difference was obtained by drawing down on the above ground stockpiles. Let's call it the paper hands. People who held silver, well, the price is a little bit higher, they would sell it into the market, meeting the deficit. But the higher the silver price went, the less paper hands there were. Paper hands are the ones who sell very easily and very quickly on every price rise. And eventually you get to what's called the diamond hands. Diamond hands are the ones who hold silver or hold anything and just don't sell it at any price. So we're certainly moving in the direction of the diamond hands, and people are having trouble getting their hands on silver at the moment. Now, if you're a manufacturer of something which uses silver, which consumes silver, such as motor cars or photovoltaic or electronics or in the defense industry, you can't take the chance that you'll have to shut down the production line if you can't get your hands on silver. I mean, you don't care about the price of silver. I mean, let's take a car. There's something between half an ounce of silver and 1.5 ounces of silver in an electric car. So does it matter if the price of silver is $20 or $200? It makes no difference in a $50,000 car. You've got to have that silver, whatever happens. So at the end of the day, manufacturers are now scrambling to make sure they're first in the queue to get the silver, because there's these stories about silver being in short supply. And
yeah, it kind of makes sense why everything's rising, like prices in the cars. Like, now that he's breaking it down, this makes tons of sense. And I mean, it makes sense why silver's obviously rising.
Everybody's wondering if they'll be able to get it. So I think that's contributing to the sharp rise we're seeing in the silver price. So the question which you're probably all asking is, what should I do? Well, first of all, if you're thinking of physical silver, my answer is sit on your hands. Don't do anything. Don't buy, don't sell, because inevitably, if you end up trying to buy it, you're probably going to pay a lot more than the silver price, unless you're lucky enough to find one of these dealers who's trying to offload. Because don't forget, silver dealers have only got a limited amount of money. So if you're going to sell their silver to them, they'll probably still buy it from you, but they don't want it that badly anymore because they've spent all their money buying other people's silver and they can't offload what they bought to the refineries. But likewise, if you go into a silver dealer trying to buy silver, they'll be worried that perhaps on Monday morning they're going to wake up and find the silver price another $7 higher. So for sure, they're probably going to charge you a huge premium. So you might find the difference between the buy and sell price of physical silver, it could be huge. You might find you can only get $20 below for physical, and if you want to buy it, you might have to pay maybe as much as $20 above. Now, I don't know what that'll be. You'll have to find out, but I don't recommend you even bother. I think the best strategy is sit on your hands and wait for this to settle down. And for sure, it will settle down in a few weeks. Do remember, it's not going to be straight up. At some point, we're going to get this dip for sure. It might dip. It might go another $20 higher and then dip back to a price which is higher than today, or maybe today's price was the highest.
Like this versus this right here. Which one's more valuable? Which one am I taking? Now I'm taking this all day. Like, this is crazy right here. This isn't nothing anymore. Like, this right here and some gold is what we need. It's crazy. This is nothing. Like, I could rip this. I could rip it so easy. Like, it just makes sense. You can't bend that. You can't, like, it makes a lot of sense. I appreciate this, man, a lot.
Dip back below 100 on Monday morning. We don't know that, but no point in trading the physical silver at the moment. Now, if you want to trade ETFs or on COMEX, that's fine. The prices will be very, 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 very narrow, and you're perfectly fine to do that if you have a view of the direction. Now, I don't have a view of the direction at the moment. It's impossible to say. All I can say is when something's rising rapidly, in general, the odds are that it will continue going up the next day. But of course, the day will come when it doesn't, and whether that was today or tomorrow, the Monday, I don't know. But what can you do? Now, I'm going to quote from something that Rick Rule has said. Rick Rule, who's been around in silver for donkey's years, he's in his 70s as a wizened old man who, a very, very smart individual. He has announced that he's sold 80% of his silver, physical silver, and used that money to redeploy into silver miners. And the reason he gives for that is that if he owns silver, there's only one way to make more money, and that's for the silver price to rise from the price at which he sold it. On the other hand, with the silver miners he's buying, the silver price only has to stay where it is for the profits of those silver miners to rise significantly. Most of the silver miners had their profits estimates done when they last reported results. That might be 3 months ago or more. And the silver price back then was well below $40. Now, if the silver price goes from $40
He says back then, like it wasn't a year ago or two, like
to $80, for example,
it's 100.
that may be a doubling of the silver price, but if that silver miner is mining the silver at 30 and it goes from 40 to 80, his profit goes from $10 an ounce to $50 an ounce. There's a very leveraged effect on the profits of the silver miner. So as Rick Rule said, all that has to happen is for the silver price to stand still where it is, and we will see significantly higher profits announced by the silver miners when they announce their next results, and the ones after that, and the ones after that. And what usually happens when profits estimates are revised upwards and when profits actually go upwards is, as a general rule, the price of the stock rises too. So he's not bailed out of silver, as many people are saying. He's made a strategic shift into something which he sees as much more risky, but with a lot of potential upside, even if the silver price stops rising. Now, should you be following what he does? Well, I want to say something very important about what he does. He's been around in the silver miners sector for decades and decades, and he knows absolutely what he's doing. So he knows which silver miners are going to be the survivors. He's got a pretty good idea which ones might go nowhere. There's no point in buying what's called a silver mine. There's many companies around with the word silver in their names which aren't actually digging up silver out of the ground. Now, if they're not digging silver out of the ground, they're not making any money. And if you're not making any money, you can't pay the bills. And if you can't pay the bills, eventually you might go out of business. So clearly he's been able to distinguish between those companies which won't run out of money and those which might. Now, my advice, if you're looking at silver miners and thinking of buying silver miners, is you concentrate on those which are making money today. And I mean real money. So you need to be looking not just at the profit and loss, but you also need to be looking at the cash flow statement. And you can do this very, very easily using the app, or it's not an app actually, the website which is below this video called Simply Wall Street. It's free of charge, free forever. You don't need a credit card. But if you click on my link and you want to go to the unlimited version, which gives you a lot more, there's a 30% discount. So the important thing is, if you are following what Rick Rule has suggested and you want to go into silver miners,
It's taught me a lot about silver right here, Clive Thompson. I appreciate you. That was a lot right there, but he definitely made me understand why the silver prices keep on rising, and that we could see a huge correction here in the next, few weeks or days. But very thankful to Clive. Make sure y'all go check out Clive's channel. This was great. I hope y'all learned some new things today. I'll see y'all tomorrow.